I'm in the
From Green Bay, Wisconsin, Mr. Anderson. Wait for it. Wait for it. Anderson.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is season 3 premiere of Talking Shit. I'm Brian. With me always is that handsome devil right there.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side for you to do that this time, so I'm Mark. I told you when we started the season up this year that we were going to start it off with a bang.
Hell
and I was surprised when I actually, got Ken Anderson on here. So, I mean...
Wait, Ken Anderson?
Yes,
Who?
Ken Anderson. Ken Anderson.
Wait, one more time. Who is it?
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
That's
How
right.
about that?
That's right.
We had a little bit of delay. Sorry about that. We'll blame StreamYard for this one.
Yeah, they suck.
But without further ado, we're going to bring on Mr. Anderson.
How you guys doing?
What
I'm
is happening, Ken? How are you, sir?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, we're excited to have you. Thank you for indulging us with coming on the show. We're just some podunk rednecks out here in little old Florida, trying to hit it big.
Hey, aren't we all? Yeah.
That's right, man.
Yeah, what I used for the intro, that was one of my favorite one of my favorite things that you did when you first came to TNA. I was like, wow, that was awesome, because you had everybody thinking you were going to come back as Kennedy and Anderson, and it was freaking awesome. I loved it.
They caught on to the Anderson pretty quickly too. And it was funny because I would get people from time to time. I really didn't change much, right? It was pretty much very similar to what I was doing in WWE, but I would have people come up to me and go like, "Oh man, I really liked it when you were Mr. Kennedy a lot better." Okay, just my name. It's actually my real name, so.
I mean, when you came,
You realize I'm the same person. I just kind of changed my name. That's all.
I literally changed my last name. That was it.
when you came to TNA, I think people were surprised as it was. But as some of the stuff that you did there was more, I thought it was, better than what you did in WWE.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed my time in TNA thoroughly from beginning to end, and yeah, I just the opportunities that were given to me by all the people in TNA were just I had my handcuffs taken off me, so to speak. So I really enjoyed it. Got to work with some great folks. Got some great, I got to do a program with Sting and with Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, Kurt Angle, stuff that I didn't get to do in WWE.
I like the fact when you came and when you were against Sting, when you dressed up as Surfer Sting, that was awesome right there. The stuff that you did with Bully Ray, when you first were part of Ace and Eights and then taking Ace and Eights all the way out, that was awesome too. Kurt Angle, that was again some of your better work, I think, all the way through.
Thank you. And the Kurt match, the cage match that I had with Kurt, our blow off, was my favorite match that I've ever had in my career so far. And the stuff with Sting, the really cool behind the scenes story that is when I first got paired up with Sting, when they told us we were having a program, he pulled me aside and said, "Look, we don't know each other too well, but I just want you to know that I am open to anything." So if you have any cool ideas or anything, and I was just like, well, when I first broke into the business, people used to compare me a lot to you and say that I looked like you, like the young surfers thing. What would you think about if I dyed my hair blonde and did the, like, you know, and I came out in your gear, and he just loved the idea. And it turns out like all the stuff that all the gear that you saw me wear was actually Sting's old gear.
Wow.
And the best part about it was Sting did my face paint every night.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Ken, how old were you when you first broke into the business, man?
I think I was 23. 23.
And then how old were you when you first started feeling it in your bones? Because I know everybody. I've watched some of your previous interviews, and you talk about how, man, I'm excited to take bumps and all that stuff. I was too. I did some indie stuff, and I was excited to take bumps, but I know it puts a hurting on your body. So about what age did you start to feel that?
Like feel the pain?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't until I was working for WWE. So I was probably like 8-9 years in the business. Yeah, it just never dawned on me before that. I mean, I know I was sore here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get injuries that you injure places on your body that you don't even realize that you use. And then when you can't use them, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I use that every day. You know, it's like one time I did something to my ribs, and you just don't realize, like, standing up and sitting down, you're using your abs there. But yeah, it was probably like 8 or 9 years before I really, really started to feel like, oh, this is rough. But that was because, you know, I went from working every weekend on the independents to working 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week when you did overseas tours. We did a really long tour one time. We did 19 shows in 21 days when I was working for WWE, because we did a series of matches over here in the U.S. Then we did a big 9-day overseas tour, and then we came back and ended with another tour here in the States. You're in a different town every night, and you're taking bumps. And like for a good 9 months of my career, when I was in WWE, I was wrestling Batista on house shows every night, and we thought it was great that he would just give me like 1 million spine busters every night.
Ouch.
Yeah. Like our favorite thing to do. I'd roll out of the ring, time out. Then I'd roll back in the ring and give me another spine buster. So fun stuff.
Yeah, those spine busters are going to make you a little bit shorter, though. Isn't that what's going to happen eventually?
Well, the tombstones are what should the pile drivers and the tombstones make your way shorter, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then MVP and I were married to Kane and Taker for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we would do house shows together, and a lot of times they do a main event dark match. I think they might still do it actually, occasionally, but to send the crowd home happy, they'll just put a match out there, and you know, they'd have Undertaker and Kane hit all their cool stuff and eat us up, send them home happy after the camera stopped rolling. So like sometimes MVP and I would be like getting ready to get showered up, and he'd come up to me and say like, "Hey, we got the main event dark match tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Then we Rochambeau over who was going to do who was going to take the choke slam and who was going to take the tombstone, because the tombstone was way easier to take.
What Undertaker was easy to work with, I assume. He looks like he would be somebody I would be fearful to get in the ring with because of the moveset that he has. Especially with the tombstone, because there's people out there I don't think can hit it right, and I think if once you hit it wrong, you're done. You're out. You're never going to wrestle again.
I never once felt unsafe working with any of those guys, Kane or Taker. You know, they're just like dreams to work with. Super professional. They're pros for sure.
Yeah. Stiff wrestlers. Anybody in the business a little stiff?
No, not like stiff. I I know personally, like Matt Hardy and I like to work snug with each other. Like we would, you know, we were paired up on house shows for a good couple months, and I was sore then just from, we bump hard, we kind of hit each other a little hard, but it wasn't like. I think that's just the way we like. Sometimes you like to feel it. It depends on who you're working with. Some guys like to work really, really light. They don't want to feel you.
Yeah.
And some guys want to get hit a little bit. So kind of middle of the road guy myself.
And you talk about that time when Matt Hardy, that's when it was you, Matt, and Helms, right? You, Matt, and Hurricane were all chilling together.
Yeah, we were rolling up and down the highways together. That was good times. Learned a lot from them.
You guys had that nice little click going on, because I think there was some backstage talk about that back in the day about how they were going to bring you guys in as a faction or something like that, or something.
I remember Tatanka one time saying, it's the new click. It's the new click. So
that would have been cool.
We kind of ran with it and called it, and we still today, the CCBs, the click, click, boom.
Click, click, boom. That's really cool, man. You keep in touch with all those guys still?
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool.
Everybody's doing really well. And, it's like you develop these friendships with people, the real life friendships, because you're with those people more than you're with your own families. And like I said, we were rolling 5 to 7 days a week. Thick and thin,
Yeah.
He's not the first wrestler to tell us that. Al Snow told us the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And we had Al Snow on back in April, May.
Yeah.
And you came up out of OVW, right?
I did. Well, I did about 6 years on the Indies, and then I got signed to OVW, and I was there for, say, 6 months before I got pulled up onto the active roster. It was relatively quick, and it happened overnight, kind of. But then I stayed at OVW, so I would do Raw, or I would do SmackDown and the pay-per-views and the house shows and stuff like that. And then I would go back to OVW for TV taping on Wednesday night, and then I would go home. So it was more like, I get about a day off, day and a half off. But I loved it. I wasn't complaining about it.
I think I would.
Yeah, I was there for about a year.
Yeah. During your time there, who was head of OVW? Was it was it Cornette? Was Cornette there?
So when I first got to OVW, Cornette he had the pencil, like he was writing the shows.
Yeah.
Danny Davis was in charge, obviously, and the trainers were Lance Storm and Al Snow. They would sort of flip flop. Like Lance would come down for. One of them would come for 2 weeks, and the other one would come for a week. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, Cornette was writing, and it was like there's 50 other guys and girls there that are all trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to be recognized and seen, and you only have so much TV time. The OVW TV tapings were 1 hour apiece.
Mm-hmm.
I think they did a dark match maybe before and after. And so, you were just vying for, like, who can get a little match tonight. So, when they would put you in there for a match, it wasn't like you really had anything to chew on. It was just, here's 5 minutes, go out there and try to get yourself over. So, like, Jim just never really, not a knock against him, I'm not burying him or anything. It's just like he didn't see anything in because I wasn't showing him anything. And then Paul Heyman, Jim got fired, and Paul Heyman came in immediately, and Paul changed my life in 5 weeks. Like, he told me that day one, he's like, your life's about to change. I'm going to do so much stuff with you. You're going to be the next guy out of here. And I was. It's cool.
Yeah, the Paul Heyman School of Hard Knocks, boy, I'll tell you what, that's one that I would tell you that's the person that I always felt like if you were going to take an opportunity, you take it from Paul Heyman. The stuff that he does on television, doesn't even reflect what he's capable of doing behind the scenes. And
that's it. The stuff that you see, like you just said it, the stuff that you see on television is a fraction of what is actually going on. A lot of the best stuff that you see, the best storylines, the best swerves, the best just setups are Paul Heyman's doing.
What do you think about the writing today, though, as far as the writers are concerned with, and I'm going to go into the AEW side of things too, because I honestly feel that unfortunately AEW side of things is a little bit more atrocious. Like I want to follow a story.
Hey, I still watch it.
I want to watch it, but I can't follow a storyline, and that's what I'm used to. I'm used to the storylines that guys like Ken gave us, The Rock, Stone Cold, you know, that whole gambit, you know what I'm saying? So
it was also a different time, though.
I personally think, honestly, it just comes down to different flavors of ice cream. You like the storytelling. Other people like the, I don't want to say Cirque du Soleil, but like, you know, the acrobatic, like more action, high octane stuff. And I really think that both companies just, they're different in those regards. They offer completely different products that just, they resemble each other so much that you start comparing them. Does that make sense? Like people compare soccer to football. You really can't.
It's two different things. I guess I think more along the lines of what we would be saying then is like more WWE is more soap opera style storytelling, where the AEW side of things is we're not going to tell a story. We're just going to get in the ring and start knocking teeth and heads together.
Well, once they start telling a story, they also change it, though. That's the bad part. Is they don't keep with the story. They change it really quick.
And I don't know, like I don't know for sure because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes there. But I do know that like when people would complain about that, because WWE's done that in the past, and I'm sure they still do to some degree, and they will. It's, you know, you've got all these moving parts behind the scenes that you're not aware of, that this person's injured now, or this person is injured, but not so injured that they can be off TV, but we have to like modify their storyline a little bit. And we're not going to tell the people that this person's injured, obviously. You know, there's things like that. There's guys, you know, one of the female wrestlers gets pregnant, has to go away. Like there's all these different moving parts. I think the hardest job in the wrestling business, bar none, or just in the world really of entertainment, is being a writer for pro wrestling. Because you look at like a show like, my wife and I are rewatching old Friends episodes, right? You look at an episode, a show like Friends, what is it, 22 to 24 episodes in a season? They're 30-minute episodes, they're 22-minute episodes. WWE, AEW, they write TV. You know, you got Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite. What's the other show?
NXT.
Yeah, all this stuff, and they have to write it 52 weeks a year. They never take a break. And you just have to constantly, like, you know, it's like you don't even get a chance to look at what we did, man. Enjoy what we did. It's what's going on next week. What are we going to do? Always on to the next thing. And also, everybody's chasing ratings all the time, which I think is crazy. Like, it's so outdated, right? But everybody's chasing ratings, and you got to look at, like, that didn't work. That didn't work. So we got to change it up next week. And so that's why a lot of times things that you think are working well aren't necessarily working in the ratings. So we got to change it up because our sponsors don't like it.
Gotcha. What do you think about the move that WWE just did recently with moving to Netflix, moving Raw to Netflix?
I think it's like it's a no-brainer. I think it's a very obvious. I'm happy, and I think it's I'm excited to see what happens. My wife and I just watched Raw from Monday. We watched it a little late, but we watched like the first 2 hours of it. That was really good.
Mark watches it religiously. I told him the other night, I was like, I'm not watching it because it's, you know, it was the first move to Netflix, and myself personally, I was like, man, I kind of miss it being on TV. But
it's the only difference is that they, at least this episode that they did was they made it more than what it was. They made it feel like it was a premiere episode of something.
Yeah, it was like a PLE.
Yeah. And I mean, they had what, 4 matches altogether. The Rock and John Cena did most of the talking the whole time, so sounds about right.
Yeah.
But altogether, I love the opening to Raw. It was great. I love the canvas that guy painted. That was beautiful. I'm not thrilled with the canvas on Raw, the ring. With all the sponsors on it. One I could get used to, but everywhere. I mean,
yeah. That's just life today, That's just
right.
Moving.
Got to roll with it. I think you got to roll with it.
I mean, before long, wrestling won't be on regular TV. It'll be on all the streaming services. Because look at AEW. You don't have to watch it on cable anymore. It's on Max.
Yeah.
Every week now.
Yeah, I personally, and this is just the way my brain works, I don't see a difference between the two. Like I don't differentiate, because I guess I didn't really ever watch wrestling. I mean, years and years ago I did, but I recently haven't really watched wrestling on TV. Personally, I hate commercials, so I always want to wait until at least 2 hours afterwards so that I can fast forward through the commercials. And an interesting thing I thought was that I was under the impression that because they were going to be on Netflix, there would be no commercials, and there was probably just as many, if not more.
I thought more, really. I really did. But, I mean, Triple H at the press conference, he explained why that they had to, do the commercials, because somebody's got to pay for this stuff.
Yeah, yep. That's just the way it is, again, that's one of those things where, certain things you just have to accept. I don't like it. I wish it wasn't like this, but what it is.
I wish tickets weren't so much. But that's just me.
So question, because I think Hunter said in the beginning that it was the largest gate ever in the history, or was that the Rock?
That was the Rock said that, and there's no freaking way that could be the largest for maybe Raw, but not gate.
So my wife and I were talking about it, and she was like 17,000, and I was like, that means tickets must be really expensive for this.
Yeah.
So how much were tickets for it? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I didn't look them up. The only thing that I get to watch around in our areas, NXT is in Florida, and they come to our county. So every 6 months or so, I'll go watch it. And I like watching that because I get to watch the superstars of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they got some great stars there that I can't wait to see when they go up to the main roster. And if they're going to make it or not. That's the biggest thing. I'm hoping that they do, because they got some great ones down there.
An example of that too, and I know that you've done some work with William Regal. His son is now an NXT. Did you get
Charlie Dempsey?
Yeah, did you get to meet Charlie when you were working with William at all?
No, I didn't. I don't believe. Some people brought their families around regularly, and I don't recall Regal as being a guy that brought his family around. Never really. I'm sure I did it at some point, but he must have been very, very young. How old is he now? 20s?
I think it is mid-20s, I think.
Yeah, I was in WWE from 2005 to 2009, which is insane to think how long ago that was.
That was during that.
It was
Attitude
David.
Era. Right?
What was that?
That was still Attitude Era, right?
No, it was the Ruthless Aggression Era.
Oh, Ruthless Aggression. Yeah, that's right.
Damn, Brian.
It's funny is I just found that out in the last couple of years myself. So I had no idea that there was even a name for I knew the Attitude Era, but I knew that we weren't. So.
It seems like every few years you have a new era.
Got to.
Like now, this one's going to be called the Netflix era.
or error. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. We're gonna get off wrestling for a tad bit because one of the things when I was looking through your stuff, I seen that you were doing ring announcing for boxing.
Yep. I did one.
Oh, just one.
Yeah, just one for Top Rank Boxing, and then I did a couple MMA. There's like a local promoter around here that also runs a wrestling promotion and an MMA promotion. And so I think I did like 3 or 4 shows for him doing that. I like it. I don't love it, but I like it, and it's a natural fit.
Do you do the last name twice like you did yours?
For a couple, I don't do it for everybody, but I do it for for the main event.
Okay. You used to announce like high school basketball or something like that, and that's where you came up with the announcing the last name twice in a row. Is that right?
Yeah, I started doing it in high school, my sophomore year. I did it my sophomore, junior, and senior years, and somewhere along the way, I don't recall who it was, said you should do it like this, say the last name twice, like the old boxing announcers. And so I just started doing it, and it caught on. Everybody loved it. I usually get like, even the parents from the opposing teams would come over and say like, "That's really funny. Keep doing that." And and then I got out of high school and I went away, and I didn't get into the wrestling business. I didn't get into the wrestling business right away. Like I said, I was 23 when I broke in, and I think I was 29 or 30 when I broke into the WWE. And hadn't given it one thought. And then Paul Heyman just told me at OVW, it was like his 3rd week there, he was like, "Tonight, go out there, cut the ring announcer off, cuss him out, tell him he's a piece of trash, and then do your own ring introduction and do it, big, and make a big production out of it." And so like in the moment I was standing there, I hit my name, and then I just hit the last name twice. Didn't even think about it, just kind of, back to
Uh-oh. You froze up. Hang on. We got to wait for StreamYard. I think StreamYard's taking a minute here.
Sorry, I had somebody call in.
You had somebody call in on your phone?
I did.
Yeah, that happens.
Sorry, I was gonna do it on my computer, and then I just got this nifty little tripod thing with the lights, and I thought I'd try it out today. So,
it's all good.
But what was I saying? In that moment, I just hit it, and the funny thing was, like that night, I had like a 30-minute match with Brent Albright, OVW TV. Had done a couple of backstage segments, and when I went to the back, all the boys were like, "Keep doing that, you said your last name, that was awesome." And people just started doing it, and it caught on. And like I said, 5 weeks after Paul Heyman came to OVW, I was making my debut. So, and I tell people, like, I didn't really change much. I just started saying my last name twice.
There was an interview where somebody had asked you how you had come up with Mr. Kennedy, and I know that on the indie circuit you were known as you were Kamikaze Ken, weren't you?
Yep, for the first couple of years I was, anyways.
Okay.
Then I was Ken Anderson.
And then how did that come about as far as the Mr. Kennedy portion of it?
So I used to have, when I was at OVW, I started making, Maria Kanellis was doing the announcing for OVW. And I started making her call me Mr. Anderson, out of respect. We're not on a first name basis, right? And then, so I started calling her, making her call me Mr. Anderson. And then when I got that the first night that I was on Velocity, I debuted on the main roster on Velocity. And I think the next 3 weeks I was on Velocity also, and I was Ken Anderson that whole time. And then I got to TV on the 4th week, and Johnny was like, Vince wants to meet with you.
You must have got another phone call. Damn it.
Nope. Are you guys good?
Yeah, we're
we're good.
It was you.
Sorry, no, I didn't get another phone call.
Oh.
We'll blame it on StreamYard.
That's
So,
just blame
So Johnny, I showed up to TV, and Johnny said, "Hey, Vince wants to meet with you. He wants to change your name." And I thought, oh, so close, you know. And then we went into this room, and it was like me, Johnny, Steph, Kevin Dunn, I think, and Vince, and he just like, it was like an interview, basically. It was like a job interview. And then he said, "I'd like you to change your name." So I kind of like argued with him a little bit, and I was like, you know, why can't it be this way? Why can't I just keep Anderson? And he said, well, you know, his excuse that he gave me, and it makes sense, was, I don't want people thinking that you're related to Arn and Ole. And I mean, theoretically, like, he didn't know if I was going to go in there and shit the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm attached to that name, but I'm the shitty horseman. And so yeah, he told me, and he gave me some time to think about it. Actually, I had already talked to Paul earlier that day, because I called him right away, and I was like, Vince wants me to change my name. Still want to use, I had the KK logo that I had on my trunks that I used on the indies, and I sort of wanted to carry that over as like a, you know, something to carry over from the 6 years that I spent on the indies. And so we were thinking of K names, and Paul came up with, he said, Kennedy is Vince's middle name. And he was like, you got to pick something that like resonates with him, that's near and dear to his heart. And so I liked it. And when I went in and I pitched that to him, I was like, well, if I can't be Anderson, what about Mr. Kennedy? And he was like, I like it. I don't think there's ever been a Kennedy before. Has there? Nope. All right. And then that was it. And then he looked at Kevin Dunn and said, make sure that he's got a new Titantron tonight with Ken Kennedy on it. So that was good.
There you go. So,
but I'll tell you, so it was that first night, just a couple hours later, I'm standing in the ring doing it for the first time, because I'd never done it before. And there was that moment where, you know, I hit the Mister, and just that pause, hoping, don't say it, don't say Anderson, don't say Anderson, don't say Anderson. And I did it.
And it was like a sigh. It's like the sigh of relief when you do it, because you're like, Kennedy.
Because I'm so used to saying Anderson at that point that it just comes out naturally, and I was afraid that it was going to come out again.
I probably would have said it.
The fact that when you change your name in any professional wrestling atmosphere, is it true that they own the rights to that name?
Yeah, and I think that's largely why they do it.
Okay.
Just, yeah, it's their intellectual property. You sign, it's in your contract. They own the rights to Ken Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy. So
well, the good thing about TKO when they bought it is they're letting the wrestlers take their names with them.
Are they really?
Yep.
That's good to hear.
Except for Edge. Edge can't have his name yet.
Oh, he can't?
No, not yet.
Well, that's because TKO didn't own it before. It was Vince. That's
that's a difference. But hopefully,
how do you feel about that? Like when you worked there, was there ever any indication like Vince is going to ever sell the company?
God, no. Like all of us, I think everybody in the wrestling world thought Vince would die in the ring. You know, like
I thought so.
Yeah, he would go out doing this.
Yeah.
Not in a million years did I ever think he was going to sell the company.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nutty. I never thought that it would happen either. You know, back when I was in when I first started watching wrestling was like in the I want to say in the 90s when I moved in with my grandparents, because my grandparents were WCW fans.
Mhm.
And I was always like, I don't watch wrestling. And then we got into watching WCW and stuff. And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm a wrestling fan now. And then I was flipping the TV channel from, you know, on Monday night because I got to watch WCW and I got to watch Raw because I didn't know what happened on both of them.
Yeah, I taped him. I taped one of them. It was always WCW.
You always tape WCW?
Yep.
Yep.
Because I'd watch Raw. I've always been a WWE because my first match, I lived in Michigan. I went to WrestleMania 3. My very first time ever watching wrestling was WrestleMania 3. And ever since then, I was hooked. You know, it had the great storylines. It had everything. And, you know, I never knew anything about wrestling until then. And after that, I used to get teased by my cousins, you know, wrestling's fake. I don't give a shit. I don't care. You could tell me it's fake all you want. You got storylines. You got people that are doing this stuff. Maybe the outcome's fake, but you know, is determined. It's not fake. Determined. Sorry, I didn't mean
Jurassic Park is also fake. You know, like
right.
You go see Jurassic Park and you tell your buddies about it. Like, oh, I saw Jurassic Park. They're not going like, you know, that's not real, right? You know, there's really not dinosaurs. Yes, I know. That's part of it.
I was telling a couple of guys at work the same thing. I was like, and then one of them was like, well, you know, wrestling's fake. And I said, yeah, let me pick up this steel chair right here and hit you over the head with it. And we'll see how fake it is. It's
right.
These guys put their bodies on the line all the time. You know, I mean, it's not that you have a fake chair that you're using. You're using a steel chair. This is a chair that you can go to one of the auditoriums, pick it up. You're going to slam somebody over the head with it. It's going to hurt.
I mean, just taking back bumps is not, it's no picnic.
Oh, yeah.
And I see it all the time in my wrestling school now, where I believe that a lot of people think, oh, it's not real. It's not real. So it's going to be like, the ring's going to be like a trampoline. And I've had people get in, and I've had to go both ways. Like, some people hype it up. Oh my God, it sucks. It hurts so bad. And then they get in the ring and they're like, well, that wasn't really that bad. You know? And then I had this one girl get in the ring, and she was super athletic, had a great look. And we did some stuff. You know, I don't always start out bumping right away. We bumped on like the second or third day, and she took the bump and she stood back up, and I saw this look in her eye, and I was like, she's done.
She's done.
But it was that look of, this hurts way worse than I thought it was going to. I don't want to do this anymore. And she's toughed it out that day, but she never came back. So I get people like that from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, you have a student, or, you know, might as well say student in your class, and that does stuff for you. Clifton Taylor. He's been on our show. He was the one that talked to you about us.
Yeah.
And how good of a student is he?
Oh, he's amazing. Great student. He's taken some time off because he's been focusing a lot on the acting world, which it seemed like he's doing really well in that. You know, in that regard, I follow him. We still talk from time to time, but he's just a great human being.
He was super down to earth when we talked to him as well. Yeah.
He told us that. He told us that you have a movie coming out.
Yes. Well, we're currently working on getting funding for a movie. What's the name of it? It's escaping me right now. Whoop Ass. It's called Whoop Ass.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a comedic film, and it's all wrestlers. It's from the ground up. It's everybody that's in the movie is going to be involved in the wrestling business. So, Whoop Ass. WUPASS.
Have you guys started working on the film, or were you?
So we just did the what's the word for it? they did like a 15-minute. We did like one scene from it.
The promo.
Yeah,
Basically.
kind of. Yeah, that's not the word for it, but I don't know why that word is escaping me right
Trailer.
now.
No, it's not a trailer.
No.
It was a little more than a trailer. It was like a couple scenes, but hey, Hollywood Haley J, she's in it. So
Oh, Hollywood.
Hollywood, that's it. Hollywood.
Hollywood Haley J. Yeah, she's So I took an opportunity. I watched that Netflix series on OVW. I thought that was a great series. It was very short lived. I didn't realize who had owned OVW now, in where Al Snow stands as a part of it and stuff like that. I'd love to see OVW grow into something bigger too, because I feel like was it WWE just pulling out of it altogether? They just we don't want to take the talent from there anymore.
I'm not sure why. I feel like it was they just wanted to start their own.
I think that's what it was, because they went with FCW and then changed it into NXT.
Yeah, because when I was there, they had just opened Deep South Wrestling too. So there was Atlanta-based territory, and then OVW, Louisville-based, and then they closed up Atlanta. Like MVP came out of there. Some other guys that came out of there. I think the Miz even came out of there. And then they closed that up, and then they started FCW. I was still there. I want to say 2008 they started up FCW, and then he just sort of phased OVW out, and then FCW just kind of morphed into NXT, if I'm not mistaken.
I liked FCW when it was running around here, because my daughter, I took her to WrestleMania 24. And she would tell people, how wrestling was going to go, who would win, everything. She was correct almost about 95% of the time. She was correct on who's going to win. But when FCW was here, it was her birthday, and they took the magazine into the back, and everybody signed it for her. It was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Nowadays, you don't get that.
Yeah, it's a little more closed off now to the public.
Yeah. NXT, they let a few people go around doing autographs. I've gotten a picture with Braun Breaker, and who else was there? Can't remember the other guy's name right off the top of my head, but every so often I can get pictures with them. But other than that, it's really closed off more.
We're going to pause the screen right here so we can get a picture with Ken Anderson, sir. Love it, man. I love it. Do you still have the ring gear, Ken?
I do. I still work. I still perform.
Yeah.
A couple weekends a month. Most of my attention is focused on my wrestling school here in the Twin Cities. We're in St. Paul. Train my students 4 nights a week.
Yeah, that's why we had to do it so early in the. That's why we had to do it so early in the day, because he's got school tonight or something else tonight.
Yeah. Class tonight from 7 to 9 or 10 p.m.
Are you taking any of your wrestlers from that school and sending them off to grow anywhere else? Like, do you have the talent there where you're like, you're ready, you need to go get on the road?
I do. From time to time, like, I have students that just sort of branch out on their own. I know a lot of people in the business. I know most everybody, but I certainly don't advertise that I can get you anywhere. I can do anything. That's really not how the business works. It helps to know people, but you have to do the work on your own, and you have to put yourself in a position where, like, I can call up a Tommy Dreamer and say, Tommy, take a look at this guy, or Al Snow, take a look at this guy. And they will. I've got a couple of my students. Tiffany Stratton was one of our students.
Yes.
He's doing okay for herself.
SmackDown Women's Champion.
Yeah. Julia Hart is another one of my students.
Wow.
She was the AEW Women's Champion.
Wow.
Darius and Dante Martin.
Okay.
I will say Darius was our first graduate of the academy, and he still trains more than any of our other students. He's there. We're open 4 nights a week. He's there at least 3 nights a week. And sometimes he'll call me and ask me for the key so he can just go in and train on his own. So just for those, if anybody's out there who wants to become a wrestler, you've got to put the work in. Sky's the limit if you do. We also, Von Wagner from NXT, he was one of our students. There's somebody else too that's escaping me, and then we have a bunch of students who I think could potentially get there. They just haven't had their moment yet, but they're doing extra work for WWE. The thing about the WWE right now in the extra work, when I was coming up in the business, we'd get booked as extras and then we'd get to do dark matches. Well, they don't do dark matches anymore. They don't do any, you really don't ever see any squash matches or anything happening in the arenas. So it's sort of different. They're just sort of they get to be extras. They're actually background extras and stuff. Sometimes they get to take bumps. They get to show a little bit of their stuff. But so it's a lot different now. You really, it's good to have those connections, but in order to be seen, you have to go to one of their, they have combines every once in a while. They'll have a 2 or 3 day tryout actually.
What, every 4 to 6 months they have a compound where they do it.
Yeah.
And you talk about breaking into the business. I'm positive you didn't just roll right out of bed and go, I'm going to be a wrestler today. How long did it take you to get your foot into the door of WWE? You started when you were 23. I know you've had some trials and tribulations along the way. You were a personal trainer, I believe, is what I read, before becoming a professional wrestler.
Well, look at Brian. He did his homework.
I tried. I never do my homework. What, are you kidding me?
I know. That's why I was shocked. Sorry.
When I first broke into the business, I was an armed security guard for a nuclear power plant. That was my gig. But I had to work every other weekend, so I had to give up half my wrestling bookings. I'd get asked, "Can you do this weekend?" No, I got to work. So I had to get something that I was able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll be a personal trainer. I'm at the gym already. I'll have to work out. I get a free gym membership out of it. So that was kind of why I started personal training, and it was flexible too. I could work. I had it worked out with my boss that I could work Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I would travel around and wrestle as much as I could. What was the lead up to that? I'm sorry, there was a point to that. I think.
So you were 23 when you first broke into wrestling, but how old were you? How long did it take you to get to WWE? How many years?
I was 24 actually. It was a weird. So I sent within 10 months, and I was always trying to get opinions from people who had been around the business longer than me. Hey, should I do this? What should I do? And I remember I got the address for WWF and for WCW and ECW at the time. And I'm going to send a tape. And I remember a couple people saying, don't do it yet. You're too green. And I just thought, you know what, screw it. If I'm green, then they'll see that I'm green. And then a year from now, when I send my other tape, they'll see that and I'll see that I've improved. That was my mentality. And I sent my first tape, and 3 or 4 days later, I got a phone call from a Connecticut phone number, and it was Kevin Kelly. And he called me and said, "Hey, I got your tape. I liked it. I want to book you as an extra for Raw and SmackDown." It was in Chicago and Milwaukee. And that was sort of the beginning. I went there just scared out of my mind, nervous. And I got some great advice from people in the business, from my trainers and stuff, who told me how to act like you belong there, but don't act like a dick. Just be quiet. And so I went. I think the first time I just kind of hung out. They used to let us get in the ring. So we'd go to catering, eat, and then they'd let us get our gear on, like just shorts and t-shirt, and go stand out by the ring, and you could get in and work out a little bit with the guys. Arn Anderson would like hold class out there. It was great. And I got home from that. I didn't actually work on it. I got home from that, and I always kept an eye on their website, where they were going to be. And I saw they were going to be in Detroit and Cleveland, which was 7 to 8 hour drive from me. So I called Kevin Kelly. Now I've got that in. Called Kevin Kelly. Hey,
yep.
Any use for me on this show? Yep, sure. You're just gonna come down by yourself? Yep. All right. And then every 6 months or so, I just kept sending tapes. And so I developed a relationship with Kevin Kelly, and then Kevin Kelly got fired, and Dr. Tom Pritchard took his place. Kept rolling with Dr. Tom. I remember Davari and I did a seminar out in. We flew ourselves out to Boston. Dr. Tom was doing a seminar. There was like 20 of us. We got to meet him, start up that relationship a little bit, and then Tommy Dreamer ended up sliding into that position. So we just kept this rolling relationship. We just kept sending tapes, calling every once in a while, and we'd get extra work. I mean, there's probably 12 matches on YouTube of me as Ken Anderson versus, Sean O'Hare, and me and Skull Crusher versus Billy and Chuck, and me and Dino Bambino versus 3 Minute Warning, and all kinds of little, and then every once in a while they would have us do dark matches and stuff too. So, just kept plugging away at it. And eventually they remember you. And as long as you do what you're supposed to do when you're there, and you're respectful, and you got a good look, and you keep working on your look, your work keeps getting better and better, then people will go to bat for you. So, yeah. And that's what ended up happening for me.
So from 2000, it was 2004 to 2005 to 2009. Is that right?
Yep, that I was hired
for WWE.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is it heartbreaking? And I'm positive it is, but do you get a phone call? Hey, we don't need you anymore, or how was that? If I can ask.
It was tough. It was really tough for about a day and a half, 2 days. And then I was like, all right, it's like your dream job. They just call you and kick you in the balls. So it was tough. And then you just got to suck it up and okay. And I wish at the time that I had the ability, because I didn't, to look at myself more than I did. It was, for the longest time, I blamed others for, I knew that I had something to do with it, but I blamed a lot of other people for my downfall, and it turns out it was all me. It really was. So,
I mean, it's easier just to blame people than
it really is. And it gets you nowhere too. I'll tell you, if you have that mentality, no matter what, you have to take responsibility for whatever's going on in your life. You ultimately, you can blame other people, and it's just not going to change anything. The only time anything ever changes is if you just accept it and say, I had a hand in this, no matter how small. It's just, I will say that for the first couple of days too, I was in a place too where I didn't really like my job anymore. And that's we could spend an hour and a half going down the rabbit hole of the psychology behind that. But so after that initial day and a half, 2 days, I was actually relieved. I was like, oh, because I was just so frustrated at the time with a bunch of different things. And it was like, when you're on that type of roller coaster, you're riding hard. It was 5-7 days a week, no days off, no vacations. You're missing out on birthdays and Christmas and Thanksgivings and all kinds of stuff. And you don't complain. I'm not complaining about it. Like that's the life you want to live, but it is also like it's tough. So yeah, it was like this initial kick in the guts, and then just a giant elephant off my back. And then I took some time off. I had to get a 90-day no compete clause with WWE. I don't think they have that anymore.
Nope, they did away with it as of November.
So, you could literally, somebody's contract could end as of midnight or on Monday, this last Monday, they could have been on Raw, and then they could debut and appear on AEW Wednesday, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but I took some time off, and then I started talking with TNA. And I remember Booker reached out to me, and he was like, dude, he's like, come over here. It's good. The water is fine, And so then I went over there and dipped my toe in the water. I had a 1-year deal there. Just thought, let's see what happens. And I had a really good first year. And then I ended up signing a 3-year deal after that. And I think I was there 6 years. Oh.
What was your favorite part about TNA?
Favorite part? I think just the locker room, for one. Like, the locker room is great in the wrestling business. It was just like there was a little more tension in the WWE locker room. Everybody's sort of walking around on eggshells all the time, Like, Vince sort of liked things to be that way. He didn't ever want people to be comfortable. And TNA was just like, we're chilling. We're going to go out there. We're going to work hard. We're going to try to put on the best show. But end of the day, we're all family. We're all pulling for each other and working together collectively. I would say that was probably my favorite part. The freedom. When I got there, Vince Russo was writing, and Eric Bischoff was sort of in charge as well. It was like Vince, Hulk, and Eric. And I remember the three of them, or it was Vince and Eric, came to me and said, look, we know that you were kind of frustrated because at WWE, they give you a script that's 2 pages long. You have to memorize everything that's on that script and hit it.
Oh, Lord.
Word for word. That's just the way it is. And they were like, they would give me a script at TNA, and they said, look, these are the bullet points that we really want you to hit. But however you get there as Mr. Anderson, have at it. And I didn't even really have to run anything by them. So like for the first 6 months or so, or maybe a year, they would hand me something, and from time to time I'd call Paul Heyman, say, hey, here's what they got for me. Can you help me? And he would, check your email in about 5 minutes, and I'd look at my email and he would have it, and just, oh, that's so much better. So in a roundabout way, Paul Heyman once upon a time wrote for TNA a little bit.
So basically, you're telling me that you're a Paul Heyman guy.
He is.
I am. Definitely.
How many guys do you know that are not Paul Heyman guys? There's Paul Heyman sees something in you, and then all of a sudden he just kind of molds you and sends you into the direction that he needs you to be in. Right? That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. He's really good too at hiding people's weaknesses and highlighting their positives.
Mm-hmm.
And just bringing the best out of people. There were so many guys that I feel like from the time that I debuted for the next like year and a half that Paul was writing OVW television, it felt like there was somebody new coming out of OVW debuting WWE programming like every week, every 2 weeks or so. There's just tons of guys. Bobby Lashley.
Yeah. I used to think that Paul Heyman was just running with certain people because they didn't have the skills for the microphone. Like Brock Lesnar, is he able to cut a promo?
He can now.
Yeah, he can now for sure.
I mean, Brock Lesnar showed his side when they put him when he won the Money in the Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
When he came back as the good guy against Roman Reigns, they showed different sides of him that was so much better than just the heel part. Yeah, I love that.
Speaking of Money in the Bank, I know another guy that won Money in the Bank. And I think one of the people that he had to knock off the ladder was CM Punk. In order for you to get to the case. Is that right?
Yeah, he was the last person that I knocked off. We were up at the top. We were punching each other back and forth, and Punk and I had been on each other's first show. It was like my second show and his first show. And I remember we were punching each other, and he was like, "This is kind of a far away from Whitewater, Wisconsin, don't you think?" We had this little conversation, this little moment. And then I bumped him off the ladder and ran up, got the briefcase. Yeah, he was definitely one of the guys in there.
Yep, won Money in the Bank, and that was I think you went to go to cash in. Was that the cash in for? Was it Batista at the time?
So I was going to. Taker was the champ at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was at SmackDown. SmackDown was Tuesday night taping. We taped SmackDown on Tuesday. Vince called me into his office and said, "Hey, we're going to have you cash in that briefcase next week on SmackDown." Taker's injured. He had his biceps tear at the time, so he was going to go have to have surgery. And he said, we were planning on having him be our champion for a really long time. They had already had me announce that I was going to cash it in at next year's WrestleMania. And he said, but we really need to get the title off the Taker. We think the best way to do that is to have you cash in a briefcase. So he laid out this whole scenario. And then so I went home, had 2 or 3 days off, and then I went back on the road, and we were in Poughkeepsie at a house show. We did a double shot. So we did like a noon or 1 o'clock show in that same building, and then came back at night for a 7 o'clock show. And during that first show, I took a clothesline from Batista, just like something I've done a million times, and I felt something pop in my triceps.
Ooh.
And I rolled out to the floor, went downstairs, was already swelling up. I remember that night, Hornswoggle took me to the ER, got an MRI done, and went to my hotel room. Stephanie called me the next day, said, "Ken, you tore your tricep off the bone. You're going to need surgery. You're going to be out for like 8 or 9 months. Here's the thing. We still need to get that title off the Taker. So we're going to send Vince's jet's going to come pick you up. Going to bring you to Monday Night Raws in Penn State tonight, and Edge is going to challenge you for the briefcase." And so that's what I did. I jumped on that plane. I went. They taped my arm up as best they could. Couldn't move it. Couldn't really do anything. And Edge beat me for the briefcase, and then he went on the very next night to do what I was supposed to, what Vince had laid out for me in the office. So next day, Wednesday, and I wasn't, I was bummed about it, but like, it's wrestling. And it's, again, like, it's not real, right? Somebody's writing this. Somebody had penciled me in that I was going to win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
we'll do it again. Well, I'll get well. I'll go have my surgery. I'll get well. I'll come back. Something else will happen. So the next day, I flew to Birmingham, Alabama. Dr. Andrews sitting on his table, and he's feeling my triceps, and he just said, like, I don't think that's a tear. Yeah. It turns out it wasn't torn. It wasn't torn. It was just like a large bruise, basically. It was a large hematoma. Oh, so I was out for like 1 month, and then I came back. So MVP to this day still always, he jokes that I was a misdiagnosis away from the World Heavyweight Championship.
So who told you though that you ripped it? Who was the doctor that told you that you ripped it? Was it one of the WWE doctors?
No, it was Stephanie told me that whatever doctor, because like I said, I had gone to the emergency room and I must have given WWE as the contact, or the WWE doctor. So that doctor got in touch with the WWE doc, and then that doc relayed the information to. But yeah, they looked at it and saw a tear somehow.
Huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds like they didn't want you as champion. I mean, Brian,
that's a swerve, bro. That would be a swerve that I wouldn't have seen coming either.
Hey, Brian, a little information. Did you know he's been a champion in every wrestling organization he's been in?
Yep. I did know that.
Yeah, I told you that earlier.
I know. So let's talk about those championship belts and stuff. When you become champion, whether you're working for this organization or this one, do they pay you more? Do you get a bonus? You don't get a bonus. You just get to wear a nice shiny belt.
Pretty much. I guess like in WWE, you might get more in the sense that because WWE was a per show deal at the time. And it was sort of arbitrary too. Like, say they brought in $100 million for a pay-per-view. That's crazy, right? But like, whatever the number is, Johnny Ace would sit down at a desk and go, this much to Taker, this much to Batista, this much to Mr. Kennedy, this much. And he would just sort of like shuffle the money around. And every once in a while, like you'd hear of guys not being happy with their payoff until they would go to Vince and say, hey, and then he would either say, I think that's fair, or oftentimes he would give them more and give them what they asked. But yeah, and I guess like you might get used more often, so you might make more money in that sense, or they might look at you as a draw, as more of a draw. I guess, they're able to tell by ticket sales, by your ratings numbers, right? Those 15-minute, quarter-hour ratings. If when you're on TV, the ratings seem to climb, then you're going to probably make more money. But if they dip, you're probably going to get the same amount. And, like it's different. There's transitional champions. There's people that are meant, destined to be the guy. And then there's people that they need to sort of, hold the place for a little bit. Because the chase is always sweeter than the actual grab. Right? The 2-year Cody chase was and then now you're like, well, now what?
I'm waiting for Cody's heel turn. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Cody can pull off a good heel. And speaking of heel, you played the part beautifully. You were the best heel, one of the best heels I've ever seen in the business, man.
Thanks.
I'll tell you, when they tried to turn you face, I was just like, nope, not going to watch it. Sorry. That's not how I know him. I know him as Mr. Kennedy, the a-hole. He's that one,
I loved it. There's certain people that are better as heels than they are face, and it's vice versa. Like you throw, let's take John Cena. you put him out there, and you put him as a heel. I don't think he was a good heel. He's more better as a face than he is a heel.
Nobody likes Cena.
Yeah.
Nobody. He'd make an okay heel, I'm telling you. Not a great heel.
He's done all right for himself.
Yes.
He's done all right for himself.
He has.
I think you're right. I have more fun as a heel, definitely. And I would say that I am more of a natural heel. Like sometimes, even as a baby face, I'll find myself saying stuff on the microphone that it comes out of my mouth, and then I go, "Ooh, that might have been too much." It'll get sort of a groan from the audience. But yeah, because hey, that's my character.
It's is it easier to be the heel than it is to be a face?
It is for sure. It's harder. It's harder to get people to genuinely care about you and want you to win and get behind you. Get that sympathy that we're looking for. It's easy to go out there and you can get cheap heat. They'll boo you. That's pretty easy. But sometimes, even when somebody's like, especially new guys, right? When they're brand new and they debut as a babyface, which is not a good idea, usually. The crowd will, even if they're having a good outing, the crowd will, rib them. Like, you have to earn our respect first before we cheer you. And they'll boo them when they're supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so a lot of people will say, oh, if they have a look, then they'll be a face. But I think it all comes off on the attitude side of things. If they get in the ring and they're hamming up the crowd, then to me, I think that makes a good heel, not a face. That's my personal opinion. How do you feel about that?
It's just the connection with the audience.
Yeah.
And there are people who can go out there and be dicks, and still the crowd just love them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think it has to be like a genuine connection. Yeah. It's definitely more challenging to be a babyface for me.
Yeah, I would think.
But I tell my students, the only difference between a babyface and a heel is heels whine and cheat and complain. And that's really the only difference. Babyfaces aren't supposed to whine.
Yeah, that's right. They got to take it. They got to take all the lumps, right? The babyfaces got to take all the lumps. And no matter what, the ref didn't see that you kicked out.
All right. Okay. You just got to take it on the. All right. Okay. Take it on. All right. I'll get you.
Question for Gene. I don't know if you saw it. I posted up there a second ago. Rumor that Vince is developing a secret project in the future. Do you think that's true?
I really don't. I don't think so.
No. I think Shane McMahon and AEW have a connection. Do you think?
Yeah, stop reading the damn rumors.
I don't read dirt sheets. What are you talking about?
I don't know. It very well could be, but I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I remember hearing a couple months ago that Shane met with Tony.
Mm-hmm.
But that was.
Have you ever thought about going to AEW as a producer or anything like that?
Definitely. It would just, I don't know. I don't know that that's the greatest thing that it could, but like we were talking earlier, I have always been a WWE guy. I enjoy that type of storytelling. I don't necessarily know that I would be useful trying to get guys in AEW to do my style of wrestling, So I don't know if that's a perfect fit.
I just feel like AEW needs some work, man. I really do, and I think if you put the right people in the right in that business, that it would help. So like we were
Sure,
talking
sure.
about. You're right. They got a different style, but I feel like their style needs to just kind of get cleaned up a little bit. I think a lot of the wrestlers over at AEW get to do whatever they want to do. Like it's a playground for them.
AEW started off great. They really did. They started
Mhm.
off great with the stories and all that, but something happened. Actually, after Cody left, is when it started going down. So I don't know what happened between there or anything else, but I still like some of their stories. They got some, they got some great wrestlers there. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, they got some of the best wrestlers, like pure wrestlers in the world there. Will Ospreay and Ricochet and guys like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, Ricochet is I love him because he's a high flyer. I worry about him a lot too because he's a high flyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, student Dante did it was like a year ago. He did a what's the Canadian Destroyer off the top rope through two tables, and he just snapped his ankle in half.
Oh man,
I remember that.
Stuff like scares the hell out of me.
Jesus. Let's talk about that though, as far as high flyers go, and rest their souls. Worked with Eddie Guerrero as well as Chris Benoit. Your time with them, I know it wasn't a lot, but your time with them, what was that like?
So I was traveling with them for a few weeks. It was only like 3 or 4 weeks that we were on the road, but remember approaching Chris and just asking him, "Hey, can I jump in the car with you and Eddie?" And they had a little meeting and came back and, "Yep, that's cool, but you're going to do all the driving." Of course, yes, sir. Of course, I'm going to do all the driving, and I did. Like Chris would sit shotgun, and Eddie would sit in the back seat, and they would just like tell stories the entire time. We talk wrestling. We talk. A lot of times in the wrestling business, we don't talk wrestling. We're talking about everything else. Football and politics and stuff. But it was just it was cool in the sense that every night we were the last guys to leave. We would be the first guys to be at the building. Because the call time was always 7 p.m. on house show days. So the show starts at 8. We'd have to be there an hour before. We'd get there at like 6:50. Those guys were always on time or early, 10 minutes, 15 minutes early. And they would sit in the locker room and just talk. And then they would talk business in their gear after they were done with their wrestling match. And just sit and listen to them. And pretty soon the guy would be like running the mop. He'd come through and go like, "Oh, hey, you guys are the last guys here. Can you guys clear out of here?" It'd be like 11:30 or midnight. And then we get on the road, and then we'd have a 3-hour drive to get to the next town.
Yeah.
And then we get in, and the guys like didn't sleep, because I remember at the time just I'm wrecked, right? I did all the driving, had a big day, wrestled, and we would be standing at the desk, and they would be arguing like 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock. I don't know, what do you want to sleep in a little bit and go to 8? Like I said, it's 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning now. And all right, let's get up at 8. We'll have breakfast. We'll go to a gym, get in a good workout, and then we'll take it from there. And we didn't have to be to the building until 7 p.m. the next night. But
Right.
They were very, very regimented and stuff. Like, you're still on a schedule. This is just the way it is. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. As much as I hated it, I enjoyed it because it was discipline.
Mm-hmm. So you get to the hotel at 3, and sleeping in is until 8. So you get 5 hours, eh? That's not
5 hours. And that's, and I'm not. I have to get in there. I have to take a shower. I have to unwind. I got to go home. So
yeah, he's only getting like 2 hours.
Yeah,
He's getting about 2 hours of sleep by the time it's done and over
Yep.
with.
When you're pulling into these hotels and stuff like that, and then you guys are talking about going to have breakfast in the morning and stuff, recognition, people give it like recognizing you, like, hey, wait a minute, like I know who you are.
Sometimes, and there's an interesting story. This is kind of an interesting one. It was on a Sunday. We went to a Bob Evans somewhere down south, and it was, Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning. The line's out the door. So we work our way up to the desk, and we say, hey, table for 3, please. And the guy, he was like, you guys, I know you. Hang on, come with me. And he grabbed like some menus, and he started like motioning. He was going to get us a table, and Eddie just, come here for a second, man. And he pulled him aside, and he was like, hey, man, don't treat us any differently than you. All these people, they've been sitting here. We'll sit here too. We'll wait. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Yep.
That was cool.
And we sat there for an hour and a half and waited for breakfast.
Damn.
That was the type of person Eddie was.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Your school. Let's talk about your school and how people can find your school. You're in the Minnesota area, is that right?
Correct. St. Paul, Minnesota. Minneapolis and St. Paul are like they're called the Twin Cities. They're literally butted right up next to each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So we happen to be in St. Paul. We've been open since 2016. Like I said, we train as of right now. We train 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. I encourage everybody to come to all the classes. So in our school, the curriculum, the tuition is good for 1 year. So when you're signing up for a year of training at least. And I feel that sort of, I don't believe I can teach anybody in any less time than that. This is way harder than people think it is. I mean, case in point, just running the ropes. Right? You guys have been wrestling fans your whole lives, very long time. You watch it religiously. Something like guys running the ropes doesn't even occur to you that that's a skill. But every person that ever comes through our doors, it takes them like watching them run the ropes is like watching Bambi take his first steps on ice. It's just 3 left feet. I've had a couple people that did, like Gable Stevenson did okay his first time, but even he, being a super athlete, took a little bit for him to get it down. Yeah, and we just, like I said, we start training. We train beginners our Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we have match night on Tuesday nights. So we do practice matches, and then Thursday we work on spots and more advanced moves and things like that. And I try to like incorporate psychology into everything that we do. We're always talking about storytelling in the way that these guys lock up. And we just had a new class start on Monday, and we start with locking up. But we go through some basic roles and things like that. You got to be somewhat athletic, and you have to do everything safely, not only for yourself but for the people that you're working with. We just take it step by step, and we just start building up. I feel like there's like 10 things that you need to know how to do really, really well, and then everything else sort of maps onto those movements. A couple basic bumps, some rolls, things like that, and then once we have those things down, you can actually start having matches. You can tell a story with your matches. And people that are sitting watching in the audience aren't going to know that, oh, that guy only knows 10 things, because you do them so well.
Where do you guys do shows at? Where do you guys do matches at? Do you have the show right there in your facility?
Yeah, it's an enclosed practice. So it's not like we have crowds or anything like that. The only crowd that is there is the other students, which is oftentimes harder. If you can figure out how to how to work in an environment like that where it's just a few of your closest peers, you're going to be okay in front of my crowd.
Right on. Right on. All right. So we want to make sure that people know how to find you and stuff like that. So I think Mark do you have the website we're going to need the website for your school so that we can post that up for you guys.
Yep.
So is there an age restriction?
16 with parents' permission.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll take 16 and up. The website is theacademysopw.com, and people can just message me directly. You can text me or call 507-722-2776. 507-722-2776. You can call me directly or text me. That comes to my phone, comes to my wife's phone. One of us will talk to you and kind of walk you through the steps and help you get started.
So
it may take him a couple days to get back to you. Don't worry, he will.
No, just you, Mark. Why is this guy bugging me?
Well, no, actually, the funny part is Clifton told me, "Don't worry, he'll get back to you." I said, "It's been a couple days." He goes, "Don't worry, he'll get back to you." And about a day and a half later, he got back to me.
Yeah.
Also, Mark's going to shoot you a text. We're going to need your address. I'd like to shoot you over a one of these fancy talking shit shirts.
Love it.
If you'll wear it for us, that'd be fantastic. At least one time, shoot a photo so we can be like, look, man, Ken Anderson's even wearing our merchandise.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. I'd love to.
All right, so we'll get you some of that in the mail. It's a t-shirt and some decals in the mail. Is there anything you want to talk about before we let you go? Because we asked you for an hour of your time. You've been super humble, man. You've given us more than an hour of your time. So we really appreciate that. Mark's a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. So, it's always a pleasure to be able to get to talk to our people that we idolize.
Oh, what the hell?
I don't know what happened.
Good?
I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
I blame it on StreamYard.
I didn't another call. It wasn't me.
I blame StreamYard. No, we all froze that time.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys, and I guess the only thing that I want to say is, no matter where you are in the world, there are some good wrestling schools out there. Like obviously, I want you to come train at the academy, but I want people to get into business the right way.
Yeah.
And there's some really, really good schools out there. Booker T School for one. Like Quackenbush has a school. There's Creative Pro out in New York. It's on Long Island. It's Kurt Hawkins. There's some good schools. Do your homework. Find somebody that's reputable. And that doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's made it. And I think that helps. But there are guys out there who are really good trainers who just never made it to the dance, but who have other wrestlers underneath them that have. So.
I don't know. We got so much lag. I caught most of that, Ken, but we will.
You missed all that?
No, we caught.
We got most of it.
Most of it.
Okay.
Talking about how do you find a school, whether it's close to you or not. Someone close to you. Do your research on it, of course, just like Ken said. There's a couple of guys here in Florida that are attached to some Samoan wrestlers that I would tell you to reach out to. So take a look at if you want to get into wrestling. Just know that it's not something that you're going to get into and be like, oh, I'm going to be a professional wrestler in the next year. It's just not going to happen.
No.
I don't think that's ever happened to anyone, right?
There's a couple. There's a handful, probably. Triangle was one that just got hired and away to the races.
Okay.
But not too many.
That's right.
You got to do the work too. If you just show up, like our classes are, like I said, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. If you come and punch the clock from 7 to 9, and you go home, completely escape the world of pro wrestling, like it's not going to work for you. Probably, you got to live this business. You got to be willing to take risks, and you got to be willing to embarrass yourself. It can be very embarrassing, especially when you're just getting started. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make these mistakes in front of people who are going to, like, you know how wrestling crowds are. They're the worst sometimes. Like, they are so unforgiving, and they'll point out things that you don't like about yourself. You got to be willing to grind through all that. But if you do it every day, it gets a little bit easier until it's something you don't even think about, and you just go out there and you do it, and you enjoy it. So.
Yep. If you don't like it, then it's not for you. Just like you said, the girl that took the bump and you saw it in her eye, she toughed it out the rest of that day, but she knew. She was like, "Yep, not going to do that."
And one more thing I'd like to say too is, like, not the wrestling portion of what we do is not for everybody. But if you love the wrestling business, there's some way that you can contribute. Whether you're a referee or a manager, or you start a promotion and run shows and you do booking and stuff like that. Like, I've got two students who actually train with me who run wrestling promotions now. They don't wrestle at all themselves. They just wanted to understand the psychology behind the business and the politics a little bit.
So they can run their own promotions now. That's really cool. It's always nice to be able to go someplace and be like, oh, there's a wrestling match going on right over here. Let's go check it out. You know, you get to check out all the really cool promotions and stuff.
Yep. And sometimes the bad wrestling is just as fun to watch as the good wrestling. That's cool.
Yes.
But I like micro wrestling. It reminds me of Mark in the bathtub.
Oh, bite me.
All right.
Love those guys.
All right. Guys, so we're going to call it right here. Thank you again, Ken, for your time. It's been absolutely amazing being able to talk with you and everything. Mark's going to text you, get your address. We'll get the shirt in the mail. Some stickers. We'll get enough stickers, hopefully, for your students as well, so they can check out this show and many more right here on Talking Shit.
Hopefully we'll be able to. Hopefully after this we can get some more wrestlers on.
It's all about who Ken directs to us. So
I can help you out a little bit. So just message me. I'll get back to you eventually.
Yeah. I'll message you as soon as I'm off here to get your address. But like I said, we'll get that out to you, and have fun with it.
Ken,
Sounds
thank
good.
you so much.
Appreciate
thank you so
guys.
much, and we really
Thanks
appreciate
for having
it.
me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Anytime.
Have a good day.
All right, take
Later.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Ken Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Anderson, professional wrestler from WWE, from TNA Wrestling, and now has his own school, and that is the Academy. What is it? There it is. The Academy School of Professional Wrestling, right in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Twin Cities. Check them out. I have the website right here, and we'll post it up on Facebook for you guys to be able to click the link and go to it. Next week, this upcoming week, we have Lar Park Lincoln on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. This is someone that Mark has been dying to have on the show. I can't wait. Mark's going to be doing the whole interview, and I'm just going to kick back and drink my tea.
Yeah, right. You can't just sit back and.
I can't. I love this show, man. This show means a ton to me, and having the guests that we have means a ton to me because we do get to talk with them, and they get to
fun.
into their lives, and it's a lot of fun. And,
it is fun.
And for the guys and girls in the comments, you're a part of this too. So make sure that you're asking questions. We'll post them up on the screen. The only reason I didn't post a couple of them up there is because it was questions we already asked. So
That's okay. I'm going to tell Gene to rewatch the show and he'll get his answers.
he'll know. So
yeah, Gene's good for that. He'll always watch our stuff. But that's not all that we have next week.
No, then we have a show on Thursday. Who do we have on Thursday, Mark?
Cody Newton. He's the director for a movie that's coming out. It's called 259. He's also a part of the Death of Snow White. I think he's a producer, or we'll get into that one. And from here on out, we're going to have people throughout until the premiere of the movie Death of Snow White. We're going to try to get some more of them on here, so you guys can see what we're talking about, how this movie's going to be awesome.
Did you have that reel? Do you still have that reel?
I don't. I'm going to play that Thursday.
Perfect.
We'll do that while Cody's on, and hopefully we'll be able to get some more insight on it. But the trailer itself was awesome. It was awesome. It's the most I could say. I mean, I'm excited.
He's so giddy about this, guys. So you got.
I'm. It's not too often, that you get to see something like this, and I like the fact that they're coming out with more and more stuff. Not so much the Winnie the Pooh stuff, but all the other stuff that they're coming out with, like
you don't like the Murder Bear, do you?
No. I like the first one. I didn't. The second one was okay, but I like the fact that they've been coming out with more stuff of the darker side of it instead of the Disney side of it all. So this is what works out for me, and it's just fun that way because you get to see both sides of it.
It's just fun that way, he says.
Yes, it is. Any which way.
All right, so we talked about next week, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to be live from here on out until we say otherwise. We're booked up until the end of February now. So.
Oh, awesome. So if you want to book to be on the show, reach out to Mark and myself. Of course, you can hit us up on Facebook, on YouTube. Tell us who you are.
Instagram, TikTok.
Tell us who you are. Let us know what you want to come on the show and talk about, and we'll see if we can't get you scheduled in. More bands, more wrestlers, more actors, more actresses, more of the things that you guys want to see. More.
That's the key word. More. We want it. We want all that we can to get everybody on here.
You want to do some video gaming?
I thought we weren't talking about that yet.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to do some video gaming too, guys. Maybe not where you get to see us on screen, but we're working on it. We're working with a third person. I'm not going to mention our name on here.
I was going to say our third member.
That's right. And we're trying to get him to take over that portion of the show. I think that'd be really cool to be able to have that incorporated. So we'll get more into that as we move forward into not just season 3, but into season 4 and 5. Right? We're gonna keep it going.
I don't see why we're stopping anytime soon.
Right on. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else to talk about, and I'm going to tell these folks, have a good day, good night, whatever, because it's in the afternoon right now.
Yeah. Hopefully people watch this later on too, to see what we're up to and whatnot.
Absolutely. Sorry for the internet and sorry for the lagging issues and stuff like that. But
I blame StreamYard.
Still a great interview. Yeah, I blame StreamYard too. Don't worry, StreamYard. We'll be looking for another platform to play on.
Yeah, well, we might have found one. We just got to work on it, and it means me and you got to play around with it. So,
all right. Well, from us here at Talking Shit, my name is Brian.
I'm Mark.
And we're out of here.
Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.
Bitch, I'm in the